We're back. This is ThinkTech. I'm Jay Fidell. This is Global Connections. And we are going to talk about Pakistan today, the Pakistan situation, if you will. Pakistan has 243 million people. It's a nuclear power. It has one of the largest standing armies on earth. It is a serious player in the area between China and India and Central Asia. We're going to talk to Roopmati Khandekar, who knows everything about everything in this area, written books about it, and we'll have a drill down discussion in a moment. Okay, we're back. Roopmati Khandekar, welcome to the show. It's always wonderful to see you. Thank you for being here.
Aloha, Jay. Lovely to be here with you, and it's a lovely pleasure again and again and again, I hope. So
well, you are an expert in so many things, but also in the geography and the countries around India. So I really want to find out more about Pakistan. I know it's big. I know it's nuclear. I know it's had some really bad weather lately, and it's had some tumult in the government as well. And I want to know more because I think whether we like it or not, it's a major player. So can we talk first about, how Pakistan got started? And it was after the Indian independence, right?
So, Jay, let's begin at the beginning of Pakistan. So it was born in 1947 out of India. It was carved out of the Indian continent by the Brotherhood Fraternity of Jinnah and Nehru, and they made it a Muslim majority country and said the Muslims in India who want to be in Pakistan can leave India, and the Muslims who want to stay in India can stay in India. So they made a Muslim majority area known as Pakistan. Okay, now, and a separate state on the east side of India, which was known as Bangladesh. So now we had two parts of Pakistan on different sides of India, having Muslim majority, but termed as Pakistan and East Pakistan. In the 1971 war, that became Bangladesh. So this is the political setup of Pakistan in a nutshell. But the Pakistan-India antagonism is what made Pakistan come into the limelight. It's a new nation. It began at the same time as India, but it took a very different path because it went a different way, which we will talk through this episode. But you see, we had Pakistan in the news recently when we saw them running after wheat trucks, and the situation of debt or stagnation in Pakistan. The people didn't understand what is happening. So we right now understand that there was no money for imports in Pakistan. That is the situation. And wheat stocks had just now been up to only 3 weeks. 3-week import stock they had. So now when the inflation was 4.6 earlier, because of the Ukraine crisis and the Russia crisis, this inflation went up to 30%.
Oh.
So when you have mainly rural economy, 30% inflation hits hard. And when your essential supplies like wheat, tea, the foreign minister was asking for people to stop having an extra cup of tea. So because tea is imported and that would run into the forex reserves. So, and even the property in Washington, which is the Pak Embassy, they were willing to sell it.
Oh.
So you think they are bringing in every penny to sustain themselves? So this is the kind of deplorable situation for this economic crisis. And I can, let's analyze it for everybody that into 3 parts. First, there's a political reason behind this. There's the economic disaster that Pakistan has taken and the natural disasters. So let's go through 3 of them one by one.
Oh, good.
So in the political structure, when 1947 it was born, you see, to have democratic elections, it took them up to 1970. And between 1947 and now, there have been 29 prime ministers, and no prime minister has completed his 5-year term. because the military has a doctrine of indifference. You know that? They have by Supreme Court. You know how many coups that take place? Because the Supreme Court of Pakistan validated the doctrine of necessity. It is a Roman law, ancient Roman law, where it allows the military to take over the administration in extreme law and order situations. And then when things get easy, they have to give it back to the administration. But in Pakistan, it happened in such an adverse way that military used to take up the parliament whenever they felt. So they had around 18 prime ministers removed from office by the military. So the most recent was Imran Khan, who was removed by Shahbaz Sharif, the present prime minister, with the help of 7 political parties. They all came together just with the aim to remove Imran Khan. Now, Imran Khan claims that he had gone to Putin and requested him, like the way India is getting petrol at a subsidized price. He wanted the same for Pakistan. But Shahbaz Sharif said, no, we don't want that. And inflation has risen when in India it was stabilized. So they are going the Sri Lankan way when their currency is being devalued. And the second one was that when this new government came in, they brought in new financial decisions. So their GDP had a 2% growth and the inflation had a 30% growth. So you see the difference, 28% where they will get it from. And Pakistan's exports are 30 billion and imports are 90 billion. So the forex reserves that we see, the difference is $60 billion. This gap, their GDP is 376 billion and their debt is 274 billion. So, and Jay, we know your loans don't come interest-free. When a country gets loan, there is a lot of interest involved. Now, Pakistan is in such a situation that 40% or 1/3 of their budget is in debt servicing.
Ooh.
So they are in a debt trap. And 11 times they have gone to the IMF for debt restructuring, but they have not got it. And now if you see the natural disasters, Pakistan went through these floods and, they had, they had only 5.8 billion foreign currency reserves with them. And the next month's debt servicing is $8 billion. So, every month it increases by $2-3 billion. And the climate disasters which happened, the entire international community has come in to help them. They have helped them with a $10 billion aid. Now, be sure, Jay, this will not reach the effect. It will go through corruption channels. Because Pakistan is such a country where corruption is a very big factor in determining where the money trickles down. They do not have a stable setup. And in this, there is the debt of $100 million given by China. Now, we all know what China does when they give the carrot of, your loans. They make sure if you don't repay, you really pay well. They will take away. They will take away everything.
So is China a big creditor?
Yes, it is right now. $100 million they have promised. Now, when there was a recent, let me go a little off track. When there was a recent crisis in Sri Lanka, India has paid more money than all the nations combined and helped Sri Lanka out of this debt crisis. But it has not made a hue and cry about it. Sri Lanka is out of the crisis. But the same China will not do with Pakistan. It will make sure it pays, So that's the kind of situation that Pakistan faces right now. And you see, Jay, it's in Pakistan, the situation is so peculiar because you have two establishments. The political establishment, which is always at the mercy of the military establishment. And their military is a military setup which owns around 50% commercial assets of the entire country. So their military is very rich. In 1947, when they were formed, they were so scared of a war with India, they kept on financing the military. When they financed the military, they started making it commercial, and the more commercial it became, the more powerful it became. So they have these coups which happen at will. So that spells out instability in the eyes of the international system. Nobody trusts Pakistan. If you give a debt loan of how much ever to Pakistan, you don't expect them to pay back because the leader is going to either be assassinated, removed, and not complete his term. So how do you pay Pakistan? So they are in such a rut right now that they don't know how to get out of this debt trap. But as we have seen with the case of Argentina or any country which defaults on its debt payments, they will not go into such a deplorable situation. Something will happen that they can sustain themselves, but they will not progress at the rate they should. They're the fifth largest population they have, but do they perform as good as that? No. Because of one more thing, that they have harbored terrorist activities on their soil. The most prominent among them is Taliban. Now, Taliban is, the literal meaning is student. And there's an area on the Afghanistan-Pakistan border which claims that we want to be independent. Now, these are the same militants that Pakistan used to supply money and weapons to. So you had Pashtuns who were tribals, and Pakistan was grooming them to military purposes to resist the Soviet invasion, to please American interests. But leave aside Soviet America, these people have turned on Pakistan and said, give us independent Baluchistan. Make this region independent. So Pakistan is clearly divided into 4 provinces. And they want independence of these provinces. Because how India is a union of states, we have a separate state government which is accountable to the central government. Pakistan, because it was so scared that their regions will fall out, they had only one single administration over everything. So this didn't work out, Jay. And when they have 2 capitals, Karachi to Islamabad, what about the rural areas? They remained rural. What about the terrorist training camps? They remain terrorists. And when, like the foreign minister said at the UN, Indian foreign minister, when you have snakes in your garden, don't expect it to bite, don't train it to bite the neighbor. The snake is going to bite you also. So, they have snakes in the entire ground. So you see, they have trained the Talibani militants, the tribal people, to be militants. And they have formed organizations which last year there were around 207 attacks in Pakistan itself. How do you explain that?
And now the good news.
Yeah. That's what.
No, all of that is very troubling. So,
Yes.
India, I guess, is there are Muslims in India, but it's a minority, relatively speaking. In Pakistan, It's mostly everybody is Muslim, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So how does that affect the government, that you have a sort of one great big religion in Pakistan?
Jay, as we discussed in our episode on religion, we said that to have a democracy, to have a democratic setup, the state needs to be away from the religious circus. So when you try to mingle into religious affairs and try to establish a single, you promote a single religion, minorities are in a deplorable state in Pakistan. Hindus, Sikhs, I don't think they have a good existence. They're fearful of life itself. So they don't have a good life or tolerance, religious tolerance over there. And either you become completely Islamic like the Taliban is. If you're hanging in between the black and white and running around in the gray, it's not going to work. So you have to have a stand. Everything that you do, you have to have a stand. And when you have a stand, it makes things so much clearer, less complications. When Pakistan is playing in the gray area, there are a lot of complications, and complications means there's going to be conflict, there is going to be arguments, there is going to be indecisiveness. And one religious, now you tell me, Taliban is Islamic itself. Why are they attacking? Because they're trained to be militants. Militancy has no religion. Once you start getting violent, then your religion takes a backseat. If it was only about religion, then Taliban would never have attacked Pakistan. They would have made sure they attacked the non-Muslims. But Muslims are attacking Muslims. How do you explain religion in that?
It's a culture of violence. So, I know people who were in Pakistan at the time of independence, at the time of the creation of the state, and they consider themselves Indian. And I think we have to remember that Pakistan is loaded with Indians because it was a part of India. How do you feel about that? I mean, for example, would you go to Islamabad now? Or would you feel comfortable as an Indian in Pakistan? Or would you feel nervous about it?
People-to-people contact is fantastic. I have one very good friend in the UN she's a lawyer, and she's Pakistani, and we share a beautiful friendship. But we have met so many, Pakistani people on travels abroad. Their restaurants they run are the most superb, most fantastic cuisines that you ever taste. People-to-people contact, when you say Arey, we say Asians. That happens when you go abroad. But when you're India, Pakistan, and especially there's a place known as Wagah border. If you've ever seen it, I'll send you a link to that. Wagah border, there's a stadium, there's the border, and you have 6 feet plus, 6.5 feet plus burly soldiers who are supposed to bang their feet and, hiss at the other person so hard that you scare the other person, and they are cheered by crowds by both the sides. So that kind of thing is very fervent in India-Pakistan relation. And Jay, if you go to see, it's not a very friendly relation because we have shared so many wars together. And they were our biggest enemies on the international stage when they used to bring up our state of Jammu and Kashmir as theirs. Now it's the Indian territory, Union Territory of Jammu, and Indian Union Territory of Ladakh. So now how they can claim it?
So there's still tension at the border. There's still tension in the diplomatic relations between India and Pakistan.
Always. They were playing, they were fooling around with a temporary provision in our constitution, which was made due to the folly of Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, biggest folly of his tenure, that he kept a temporary provision known as Article 370, and which gave the Kashmir issue enough space to be used against India. So that was one of his biggest follies. And this government which has come in, the BJP government, has rectified, the UPA government has rectified it. The NDA government, sorry, they have rectified it. And they have removed Article 370. So we have our union territory back. They don't have a word to speak about it.
I talked to a Pakistani and I told him that we were going to have a show about Pakistan. And he said, who's going to be speaking? And I said, an Indian woman is going to be speaking. He says, oh, you won't get the true story. The Indians don't like us.
No, they are very good people. People to people, very good. The country, no. And there was another big problem, Jay, of fake notes, currency notes being used by Pakistan. So fake Indian currency notes. Now, I'll tell you about this in another time. But the ink which was used by the company is supposed to be unique to one country. So the government under Mr. Manmohan Singh had authorized the same company to which was printing Pakistani notes to be printing Indian notes, and that ink was easily replicated. And you had fake currency roaming the entire place. So they had a good balancing of economy. And now see when the currency has changed, when we have demonetization in our country and our currency changes, why should it affect Pakistan? So they could not do this fake note business. So that's another reason.
What a wonderful story. I can remember some news items. Of course, Osama bin Laden was living in Pakistan, and the U.S. found him there and killed him. That was during Barack Obama's administration.
Yes,
and it was notable because he had shelter from, arguably he had shelter from the Pakistani government, which is troubling because Pakistan is supposed to be an ally of the United States, and yet, as you said, it harbors terrorists. And I also remember that the attack on Mumbai. Remember the attack on the hotel in Mumbai? That came from Pakistan. The terrorists who came and attacked the hotel and killed a whole bunch of people. This must be 10 years ago now. They came from Pakistan. So I guess my question to you is, what's the dynamic with money? Is this getting worse? Is terrorism getting worse in Pakistan? We can hardly afford to have that, especially, next to, and maybe the border is a little porous, next to India, which is, relatively speaking, a very stable country. How do you see the dynamic, the changes in the Pakistani harboring of terrorists?
Yeah, right. India has faced Pakistan as a safe haven for terrorists for over 7 decades now. But this time, under this government, Modi government, the answers given back were instant. There was no dialogue in between. If you attacked, you got a reply. See, India has always had this policy of no first strike. Always. But if somebody used to strike us, there used to be negotiation, there used to be diplomatic channels, there used to be everything, and delay, and the reply used to be not befitting. Now, under this government, if they came and they attacked, they had a reply immediately with Air Force fighters, with ground attacks. So they got scared of attacking. First, when they attacked, there was no reply, nothing. He was put in a court trial. The terrorist who was caught alive in the Mumbai attacks was put on a trial, and he was fed the best of food and everything, and he was just hanging around for years and years and years. But now, if you find something wrong, they end it. So there's a tit for tat reply to the Pakistani terrorists. So they get scared of attacking right now. And secondly, the terrorist part of it. Now, as we are facing a terrorist Pakistan on our right side, they are facing Afghanistan Taliban on their right side. So first, only 6 countries were invited when Taliban came to power. And Pakistan was one of them. But that did not, Pakistan was very happy. That meant that Taliban was on good terms with them. But Taliban is the biggest terror attack, bomb striker in Pakistan. So they're not benefiting from Taliban. They needed to have peaceful neighbors on the other side. And when America was there, they were assured that that space was okay. But now with America out of this, nobody's there to protect them. Taliban is continuing their journey to claim territories which are theirs. They are saying, this is our tribal area, this is our tribal area, this is our tribal. They're just picking up areas and saying, these are ours. There's a Durand line here. Durand line between Afghanistan and Pakistan, which was made by the British. Taliban refused to accept it for a long time. And they still say that dispute it. So they're kept very busy. Pakistan is kept very busy.
So what is the state of the relationship between Pakistan and the United States now? I mean, you're in and associated with the United Nations. You can see these things unfolding. You can see the relationships, I suppose, from the United Nations point of view. But what is the state of affairs between Pakistan and the United States? And I would add, what is the state of affairs between Pakistan and Russia? Because that is so important in the Ukrainian war.
Correct, Jay. Now, from the Cold War itself, Pakistan sided with America. India stayed non-aligned, but we have a strategic partnership or relationship with Russia. But we don't side Russia like openly joining Warsaw or like how Pakistan joined the NATO. We did not do that. It was issue-based relationship. So now Pakistan has good terms with Russia, but Imran Khan was trying to do that with Russia, what India was doing with Russia. You give us oil, we will pay you. This government, just to oppose what Imran Khan did, decided to turn around and say, no, we don't want Russian oil. We prefer going on our own. But already when your inflation is so high, it went to 30%. That was the way the Russia-Ukraine crisis affected Pakistan. Now, Pakistan and US has said that they will help rebuild Pakistan economy. But Jay, why will you invest in a country which keeps on getting into this debt trap situation year after year? Because they have inherent structural issues. They have issue of corruption. They have issue of a very strong military coup at any time. They have a weak political structure. They have a social structure which is heavily built on Islamic, militant Islamism. You know, there are very few soft-hearted Islamists. You know, militant Islam thrives in Pakistan. That is the problem which we have. So America wishing to rebuild an economy which has potential to rebuild is a different situation. And America promising Pakistan, which will again turn around and come a full circle back into this situation, has a different situation.
At the end of the day, aside from the army itself, Pakistan has the bomb. It's a nuclear power. How far advanced is it? And does it ever, rattle chains on that? Does it ever threaten to use the nuclear power that it has? Is it really a nuclear power? Or is that some sort of historical notion about Pakistan?
It is a nuclear power, Jay. It is nuclear. And when India said, like I mentioned, it has a no first strike policy, it definitely has second strike potential. So that is what is a bigger deterrent than just having nuclear weapons. If they decide to use nuclear weapons, India will use nuclear weapons as a second strike. But the first strike may destroy part of India, but the second strike can destroy the entire Pakistan area. So that is a bigger deterrent to them.
Oh.
And just, I think, 2 days back or yesterday, a US study said that India is more likely to reply to Pakistan under the leadership of Modi than it was in previous administrations.
Well, the problem, just as sort of assimilating what you've been saying, is that Pakistan is not all that stable. It's not stable politically. It's not stable socially. It's certainly not stable economically. It hasn't come out of the time of the flood yet. I mean, people are starving in Pakistan right now today, by my information. And so here's a country that is in crisis, really, on so many levels, and yet it is a nuclear power. That would make me very uncomfortable if I were in the region. That leads to instability. The corruption leads to instability, and if it's unstable, then you should be nervous about its ability to launch nuclear weapons. Are you?
No, Jay, not really, because ability to launch nuclear weapons comes after your hunger is satiated. If they are still hungry,
Okay. All right. Good.
if they have very essential things to take care of right now, when they had, the ability to print Indian notes, when they had the ability to give safe haven to terrorists, when they had funding from some nations who were suppliers of ISIS also, they had good funding which was coming in from outside. So that now is stopped. So now they're on their own. They can't survive on their own. They have to just think about food, water, shelter.
Huh. Would India help? Would India help them?
India would definitely help because it is geopolitics. There are no permanent enemies. There are no permanent friends. There are only temporary interests in geopolitics.
Another quotable quote. You're really rocking today. So let's talk for a moment about China. We talked about, the Uyghurs and the Chinese attempt to stamp out, Islam where it can. At the same time, you have the Chinese loans and for all kinds of infrastructure and the Chinese inevitable debt trap. So how is the relationship between Pakistan and China right now? It is a contiguous country on the border. And that makes it, a significant force in terms of Pakistan's, diplomatic relations. How are those relations?
China and Pakistan have a relationship with each other vis-a-vis India. Your enemy, my enemy, we are friends. They are like this. So they come together just to dominate India. But you see, Jay, Pakistan stays silent on so many policies of China, which are so deplorable. Like I was telling you some time back, anybody who wants to go and find out about the Uyghur Muslims, what China does to the Uyghur Muslims. If Pakistan is a proper proponent of Islam as a religion, why don't they protest against this? It is open. It is an open secret. It is they're not allowed to use Islamic boards on their shops. So many things. I mean, they hurt religious sentiments where it really matters. There is no tolerance China shows. They want, when they give debt, they make you pay a price. And that is happening with Pakistan. Slowly and steadily, China will make sure that Pakistan is its puppet. And Pakistan has to. If I'm speaking on the part of Pakistan, I prefer it relying on its Islamic friends rather than turning towards China for help.
Well, that changes the balance, doesn't it? I mean, India has its own border frictions. You and I have talked about that in the Himalayas with India.
Yes.
So it's not a perfect relationship by any means.
No,
and we have to be careful about them. And then here we have Pakistan, who has also a strange relationship with China. But if China is able to become more influential, as it would like to do in all of the contiguous countries, then that changes the calculus. That changes the balance, call it the geopolitical balance, if China is able to exert more influence with Pakistan. Am I right? And is that a concern? And if it is a concern, how distant in the future is it a concern?
China has always sided with Pakistan, always. They have helped Pakistan, but they have, the Chinese warfare, like we have discussed in our very first they never show what they're up to. It's the element of surprise that is most valued in Chinese warfare. They don't open their cards, any of their cards, what they're going to do, what they're not going to do. It's never an issue. And on the Kashmir issue, they've never come into war with us. They are more concerned with their own selfish interests. They may support Pakistan, but they've never come overtly sided with Pakistan in India-Pakistan war. You have never had China, Pakistan together fighting India. It's either been Pakistan-India or India-China. There has never been a war when both of them have come together and fought us because of Russia. Russia said, that if somebody attacks India, they will come in. That was the strategic partnership or promise that Russia gave India. So China, keeping in line with the communist comradism with Russia, they have decided to keep away from India that much. So Russia helps a lot to deal with Chinese politics. It would have been really a burden on India, if we had to deal with Chinese aggression at the same time when we are dealing with Pakistan madness. So it is a balancing effect that Russia gives us. So China and India, when they concentrated their powers towards economic progress, you see they've decided to coexist rather than fight each other. Because fighting between India, China would set us back several years of economic development. And as you know, Jay, developing countries, they are in the fervor of economic development. Now let's do this. They can't afford a war. That is one of the deterrents that we have had.
Well, I think it's very important truth that everyone should recognize everywhere. War, undermines your economic development. But on that point, I wanted to ask you one other thing, and that is, India has been, in recent years, talk about dynamics, it has been very successful on the world stage. It has been very successful in the United States in terms of its immigrants here. I mean, they are the CEOs of major global corporations, Indians. They know how to do it, and they know how to do it in India too. And there are so many places in India which are well advanced on technology and education, and it has all the greatest prospect in the world. India has become a world power intellectually. I include you, by the way, in that notion. So,
Thank you.
what about, and that has, of course, affected not only its relations with other countries, its prestige in the world community, but it has made money for India, and it will make more money as time goes by, for sure.
Right.
You can see that happening. So now again, Pakistan is really a break-off from India. The people in Pakistan for hundreds, thousands of years were considered Indian. They are Indian, it's the same stock, in its own way. Are they having the same kind of experience in terms of education, technology, world participation in the global economy? And if not, why not?
Pakistan has got a large amount of population which works abroad, and their remittances back to the country are close to $30 billion. But you see, the same thing goes out of the country for interest payments. So Pakistan is not able to absorb these remittances from abroad. The diaspora is not that strong because you see, the education system is not catered to in the same way of 7 decades of the Indian system. And I told you the reason for that is Pakistan decided to have a one single point setup of administration over the entire area. They could have divided into different states and have state legislatures which are accountable to the center. They decided to have one central administration. So you see, that doesn't work when you want to have and good administration, good schooling, there has to be delegation of power where education becomes a state subject like it is in India. Education is a state subject, state list. Center is not responsible for your education. So we have states which look after education, banking, you have a more efficient setup. Pakistan lacks that. And when you lack that, you have unskilled labor which is sent abroad. Now, unskilled labor will not earn the same amount that unskilled Pakistani laborer will not earn the same amount as a graduate Indian would abroad. Pakistanis are very well off abroad and they do well for themselves. They are hardworking people. But you see the resources that they have to back themselves up are not at the same level as the other Indian Indian people have. So that's caused a little bit of a difference.
Yeah. Dr. Roopmati Khandekar, our friend at the United Nations and from India, teaching us all about India
You're
and
the master.
all the countries around it and so many other things. Thank you, Roopmati. It's wonderful to
Thank
be
you
able
so
to
much.
talk to you.
Thank you so much.
Aloha.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. If you like what we do, please like us and click the subscribe button on YouTube and the follow button on Vimeo. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and donate to us at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.